Welcome to Revenge with Lyra.
They say weddings bring families together. Mine used it to destroy me. The moment I stepped onto the marble entrance of the Hyatt ballroom, my chest went cold. My own face was staring back at me from a poster taped to the glass doors. Underneath, in bold red letters, "Do not enter. Useless trash." The laughter that followed wasn't from strangers. It was from my family. My mother smirked. "Don't let anyone know you're our daughter, Amelia. We don't want pity ruining Celeste's big day." My father added quietly, "Just stay outside. Don't make a scene." And then came Celeste, my younger sister, radiant in her lace gown, every diamond on her body paid for by my savings years ago. She leaned in close, perfume choking me. "Don't get too close, sis. Your bad smell might ruin the wedding photos." Something inside me went still. Not angry, not broken, just silent. I turned away from the laughter, from the glitter, from the people who had built their pride on my pain. The city lights blurred through my tears as I walked down the steps, heels echoing against the marble like a countdown. 30 minutes later, as I sat in my car staring at the midnight sky, my phone buzzed. 5 missed calls. Then one message from Celeste's new husband. "You need to come back. Something's happened." I smiled through the tears. Already. The message from Celeste's husband flashed on my screen again. "Come back. Something's happened." I stared at it for a long second, feeling the mix of adrenaline and disbelief building in my chest. When I finally turned the key, the hum of the car engine sounded like a heartbeat returning to life. I drove back toward the hotel. Not out of concern, out of curiosity. Because I knew deep down Karma had a schedule, and tonight she was early. When I arrived, guests were outside the ballroom in chaos. The elegant wedding decor, chandeliers, white orchids, champagne tables, all blurred together under the flashing red and blue lights of a police car. Inside, I saw him, Daniel, the groom, standing pale, trembling, with a half-torn boutonniere on his chest. Celeste was crying, her makeup streaked, clutching her phone like it could save her. My mother spotted me and gasped. Why did you come back?" I tilted my head. "You called me useless, remember? What could I possibly do to ruin this perfect day?" No one answered. Then a police officer stepped forward. "We're here for Daniel Cooper. We have a warrant." Celeste froze. "A warrant? For what?" The officer's voice was flat. "For fraud, identity theft, and financial deception against Goldcrest Events." Gasps spread like wildfire. My father's face turned white. "Goldcrest," he whispered. I smiled. "That's my company." For a moment, no one spoke. The ballroom, once filled with music and laughter, became a cathedral of stunned silence. Only the clinking of a falling champagne flute broke the air. My sister's jaw dropped. "Your company? You're lying. You can't even afford a dress without help." I turned slowly, my heels clicking on the marble, every step deliberate. "Remember the year you borrowed my college savings to start a boutique? I let it go. I built something real instead." The officer continued reading the charges, his voice echoing. "Mr. Daniel Cooper used falsified vendor documents and fake contracts with Goldcrest Events. Total damages, $1.2 million. All eyes turned toward me again. Celeste's perfect wedding day, the one she'd rubbed in my face for months, was unraveling thread by thread in front of everyone. Mom whispered, panicked, "Amelia, you can fix this, right? Tell them he's innocent. Tell them you'll withdraw the complaint." I looked at her, the same woman who'd told me not to call her mom at the entrance. "I didn't file the complaint," I said softly. "The system did. I just verified the documents." Celeste lunged toward me, tears mixing with mascara. "You planned this. You ruined my life." I tilted my head, calm as the storm built around me.
No, Celeste.
I just walked away. "You ruined your own life when you called me trash." Then Daniel turned to her, eyes full of fear. Daniel's voice cracked like glass under pressure. "Celeste, you said your family had money. You said your sister was broke. You told me to use her company's name because no one would notice. Every head in the room snapped toward her. The gasps, the whispers, they came in waves, like the tide pulling everything down. Celeste's lips trembled. "Daniel, please, Save it," he snapped, yanking off his wedding ring and throwing it onto the floor. "You ruined me." My mother clutched her pearls. "This can't be happening, not today." My father rubbed his temples, whispering, "All this time, we treated Amelia like nothing." I crossed my arms, watching the chaos unfold like a slow-motion movie.
No, Dad.
"You didn't treat me like nothing. You treated me like dirt, and dirt's where roots grow." Celeste screamed, lunging toward me again, but two guests held her back. The police escorted Daniel out as reporters began flooding in through the doors, cameras flashing. One of them shouted, "Miss Hartman, is it true you're the CEO of Gold Crest Events?" I gave a small, calm smile, the kind that belongs to a woman who's waited her entire life for this moment.
Yes.
And tonight was supposed to be a family celebration. I guess it still is, just not the way they expected. Flashbulbs flickered. My sister fell to her knees, sobbing. And my mother whispered the first honest words I'd ever heard from her. "What have we done?" The reporters swarmed the ballroom like vultures drawn to gold. Questions flew, flashes popped, and for once, I didn't hide. I stood tall under the chandelier light that once mocked my place at the bottom of this family's chain. Celeste was still on her knees, crying, her white gown stained by the spilled champagne around her. Mom tried to lift her up, whispering frantically, "We can fix this. Amelia will help us. She's still your sister." But I cut her off with a quiet voice sharper than any shout. "Stop pretending blood excuses cruelty." Mom froze. My father, for the first time, looked at me like he was really seeing me. "You built Gold Crest," he murmured. "All this time, while we mocked you?" I gave a small nod. "While you laughed at me. While you told the world I was a failure. While you let your golden daughter treat me like a stain." Celeste's voice came out hoarse. "I didn't mean it, Amelia. It was just jokes." "Jokes don't leave scars," I said softly. "They just hide them." Then, from behind us, the event manager approached nervously. "Miss Hartman, the groom's family has canceled all payments. They've asked to terminate the contract. You're the only authorized signature left." I looked at my sister, her wedding collapsing in real time, and said gently, "Then consider it done." I signed. The wedding officially ended 30 minutes after it began. The crowd thinned, leaving behind a battlefield of petals, spilled champagne, and shattered pride. Celeste sat alone on the ballroom floor, veil torn, lipstick smeared, the image of a woman who built her happiness on borrowed lies. I walked past her quietly, heels echoing in the hollow silence. Each step was a reminder of how far I'd come from the doormat they once made me. "Amelia," Mom's voice trembled behind me. "Please. She's your sister." I stopped.
Turned slightly.
"So was I said. But when I needed family, you handed me shame instead." Dad exhaled, sinking into a chair. "We didn't know how much you'd changed." I met his eyes. "That's the thing, Dad. I didn't change. I just stopped asking for permission to exist." A reporter's camera flashed again, catching the scene, my family in ruins, me standing in quiet grace. By morning, that photo would circle the internet, labeled, "The disowned daughter who owned everything." As I reached the door, Celeste whispered through tears, "You're happy now, aren't you?" I looked back once.
No, Celeste.
"I'm free. There's a difference." Outside, rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady, washing away the glitter, the makeup, the lies. I stepped into it without an umbrella. For the first time in years, I didn't care about being drenched. Because storms don't scare the woman who learned to survive in them. By the next morning, the wedding scandal was everywhere. Socialite bridegroom arrested mid-ceremony. The headline screamed, with my photo beside the story, standing calm while everything behind me burned. I didn't respond to the media frenzy. I didn't have to. Silence became my statement. By noon, investors who once ignored my proposals began calling. Goldcrest Events inbox overflowed with offers, sponsorships, and congratulations. But the message that made me pause came from an unknown number. I saw what you did last night. I was your mother's old accountant. You should check her offshore records. I frowned. The words felt heavy, like the story wasn't over yet. Later that evening, I sat at my desk and opened the files attached to his message. My heart stopped. Multiple accounts under my mother's name. Money siphoned from Dad's pension, even my scholarship fund from years ago. Everything they stole from me was still sitting under her name. I leaned back in my chair, the rain tapping gently against my window, and whispered, "Poetic, isn't it?" The next day, I visited my lawyer. We started the process quietly. I didn't want revenge through noise. I wanted justice through paper. As he filed the first motion, I looked out the office window. For the first time, the city didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like home. 3 months later, I received a letter from the court, the final judgment. All funds from my late father's estate were to be transferred back to their rightful owner, Amelia Hartman. I sat alone in my penthouse, holding the paper that proved what I'd always known, that truth moves slow, but it never stops. Mom called that evening. Her voice was hollow, stripped of its usual superiority. "Amelia, they froze my accounts. I can't even pay rent." I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I simply said, "Then maybe you'll understand what it felt like to be left outside your own home." She sobbed quietly. "I was proud once, Amelia. Proud of Celeste. But you became something I can't even recognize." "I became what you tried to bury," I said softly. "And I grew stronger in the dark." That night, I returned to the same hotel, the one that once displayed my picture labeled, "Useless Trash." But this time, I walked through the front doors as the guest of honor. Goldcrest Events had been awarded Best National Luxury Planner, and the ballroom sparkled with lights that reflected my name. As the applause echoed, I thought of my younger self, the girl who walked away in silence, humiliated and small. Now, she was standing taller than ever, unshaken, untouchable. And as I looked toward the future, I whispered the words that had carried me here. Never again.